Welcome to Photoactive, a podcast about photography and technology. I'm Kirk.
And I'm Jeff Carlson.
You can find show notes, including any photos we discuss in this episode, at photoactive.co. That's photoactive.co. Good morning, Jeff. Well, good morning to you. Good evening to me. Today's the 22nd of January, and apparently last night you went to a cocktail bar. Tell us about that.
Last night I went to a cocktail bar. Okay, so first of all, we got to set the scene here. The cocktail bar is a new bar in Seattle called the Ink Drinker. And what's cool about it is a bar for book lovers. So there are books on shelves all around. And the whole idea is, and it's also well lit. It's not like a dark bar. And the whole idea is you can come and have really good cocktails. You could have really good appetizers. But if you want to just sit and read and have a cocktail on your own, that's totally cool. You want to come with a couple of people and just read, that's okay. And they also have like some silent reading hours. So it's a way to kind of not do the typical kind of sports bar. I'm not sure what variations you have. I mean, you have like pub culture in the UK.
Yeah.
But this is very much like, I want to go somewhere, but I don't necessarily want to be in that bar atmosphere.
Yeah.
And the reason you brought this up, not just that, oh my God, Jeff went to a bar. That's not the
No, I saw one of the pictures you posted on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. So they're brand new. They only opened a few months ago and they're in my neighborhood. But on Instagram, they posted that they were going to start doing an info dump series. And basically they were like, if you have something that you're passionate about or that you know a lot about and you want to come talk about it for 30 minutes and do a Q&A, let us know. So of course I was like, well, how about AI in photography? Like this is something that I know about. And amazingly, they said, yeah, sure, that sounds interesting. So last night I just was extemporaneous about AI in photography. Some of it stuff that we've already talked about here. I basically wanted to make the point that everybody thinks of AI in photography as generating images with ChatGPT or Nano Banana. Yeah, exactly. And how to differentiate between what's real and what's not real. And I started with that and then also wanted to make the point that, look, actually photography I think is one area where AI is actually doing a good job because of the editing and the noise reduction and stuff like that we've talked about here. So it was an interesting experience. I don't think anybody was actually there for me. Maybe we should have publicized it a little more in advance. But this was very much an experience. But the thing is, they handed me a microphone. They had set up like a widescreen TV so I could show some examples. So if you were there last night, I'm sorry that you were subjected to this 30-minute talk about AI in photography because I just basically got to address the room. There were a lot of people who seemed genuinely interested. I had some good questions after. One woman who has some journalism training was asking me some things afterwards. So, it was a good, unusual, let's try this kind of a thing.
I like that open mic idea. And also a cocktail bar where you can sit and read. I assume they don't play music?
There's some music, but it's like low music in the background.
That would be exactly for me.
And what was great is after I was done, I basically said, hey, I'm just going to hang out here if you have any questions or whatever. They brought me a drink that I ordered off their menu. Their menu is all very sort of literarily inspired.
Ah, okay.
If I remember, I'll put a link in the show notes since we're talking about this, of the drink menu. I had this like sort of creamy rum fruity drink called the Acheron, which I think was named after the French privateer in the Master and Commander novels, or at least the Master and Commander movie.
Okay.
Anyway, it was delicious. And because I had not had any alcohol in several days, I just hung out there and read a book and talked to people and
took photos of them.
Lovely. And I took a couple photos of them. We'll put a couple photos in the show notes here too.
Okay, so we have a few small topics we want to talk about this week. I want to say that I'm surprised by Apple's announcement, which was about a week, 10 days ago, of their new creator studio. Because I'm not surprised that they want to start monetizing apps in a different way. So this includes apps like Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro, which they've sold previously. Logic Pro is $199. I think Final Cut Pro is $299. And that price is a barrier to a lot of people. They want to get into the recurring subscription that people forget to cancel system. And let's be honest, canceling a subscription with Apple is a million times easier than canceling an Adobe subscription. Because with Adobe, you're locked in for a full year and it's evil and all that. So if you want to subscribe and just for a month, you can cancel and it's really easy. There's a number of things going on. First of all, this Creator Studio includes video apps, Final Cut Pro, Motion, and what's the other one? Compressor?
Compressor, yes.
Yeah. It includes audio apps, being Logic Pro. It includes Pixelmator Pro, and that's the main thing we want to talk about. But it also includes Keynote, Pages, Numbers, and Freeform. And I'm trying to picture the meeting in Apple where I'm guessing Eddie Q is saying we got to stick all these things together. And anyone with half an understanding of users is saying, but these are productivity apps for people to work in offices. Creative people don't need these, and the people using the productivity apps don't use the creative apps and aren't going to pay for them. And I would love to hear how whoever decided this convinced Tim Cook or Eddie Q, whatever, that this is the best way to bundle apps.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, everything makes sense. They also have MainStage, which I think is a music something app. I'm not actually familiar with it. Everything makes sense except for Keynote, Pages, and Numbers.
Yep.
I mean, yes.
And Freeform.
Like, yes, creative people are going to use those things, but I don't know. It just feels like they said, look, we have these things, these pro content creation apps, and that just doesn't seem like enough. Well, what else can we throw in here? Well, how about our productivity apps? What's curious also is that those productivity apps, they get added to this, but everybody can still use them for free. There's just going to be a few sort of advanced beta features that are going to be unlocked if you have this subscription.
There's going to be some AI features plus what they're calling the Content Hub, which is going to include a bunch of royalty-free photos, I think videos, potentially other items, but we don't know yet what's going to be there. It just seems... I mean, how clueless can you get to think like that's something, charge $2 a month for people who want to use that. Do it separate from the pro stuff that's, actual creative, because someone who's using Logic Pro or Final Cut Pro is not going to spend their time in Keynote. That's two different departments in the same company. That's two different people. It's two different types of work, unless you're a freelancer. But like the people they're targeting are not the individual freelancers. It's just insulting that they're saying if you want to get the most out of our productivity apps, you've got to pay, $13 a month, which is ridiculous.
Okay, so actually I think my suspicion, and this is just basically me speculating, but I would not be surprised if sometime like maybe when they announce a new MacBook Pro or something that they will introduce maybe a Keynote Pages iWork subscription thing, so you can have like for a smaller cost you could get this bundle. But here they want to make a big splash and say like, here's everything that we do, and you can get them all in this bundle. Or maybe it's you're a content creator, you're going to need to make a slide deck to pitch something, so we'll throw this in anyway to encourage people to use Keynote rather than using PowerPoint or something.
But what they're trying to do is they're trying to combine Adobe's bundle with Microsoft's bundle.
Yes.
And put them together. And that doesn't seem like a recipe for success. Like the people paying for the Adobe equivalents, they won't care about the rest of them. But you won't get anyone signing up to use the Microsoft Office replacements. Yeah,
I guess so. I think this is mostly Apple wants to try to give an Adobe alternative. I think that's the big thing. We have something that directly competes with Adobe, is much less expensive than what you would be paying for Adobe's suite. Now, Adobe's like full Creative Suite includes a bunch of other things, but I think you can make the case that if you're an audio or video editor or both, this makes much more financial sense. I mean, yeah, $13 a month, or I think it's $130 a year.
A year, yeah. It's usually 10 times the monthly.
I mean, compared to what Adobe charges, that is a steal. So
It's
I think they're
something
trying
like $600 a year for Adobe?
yeah, something like that, yeah. And so, they're trying to pull market share away from Adobe. And obviously, Adobe is super entrenched. Apple has had Final Cut Pro for years and years, and it's sort of like it rose for a while and then kind of dropped off. I think a lot of professional editors did not like the new Final Cut Pro. It was just different enough that
I liked their early work better.
Yeah, exactly. So they all switched to
Premiere
Pro. Yeah, which I've always found to be really janky. I've tried to use it, and you really have to just be completely invested, but that's the key. Video editors are completely invested in that workflow, that sort of timeline. When I'm editing video, I much prefer to use Final Cut Pro because it makes more sense to me, but it's not a real direct comparison. But if Apple can steal some of that market share, then it's absolutely worth it to them.
Okay, so it includes Pixelmator Pro. We'll put a link in the show notes to 1 or 2 interviews did we do with someone from Pixelmator. And we don't know what's going to happen to Photomator. So Photomator was I want to say the light version of Pixelmator before it was called Pixelmator Pro, or did it come out when Pixelmator added Pro? They've gone through a naming thing over the years. It's been really confusing.
Yeah.
Including two different apps on iOS that didn't make sense. But what we don't know is what's going to happen to Photomator. And the one thing I like about Photomator is it integrates with the Photos library very easily. So you can open Photomator, edit something from your Photos library. It's saved in your Photos library.
So basically, Photomator is the Lightroom version of these apps. Pixelmator Pro is the Photoshop analog. Pixelmator Pro will also integrate with the Photos library just because it's all built in.
Yeah.
But Pixelmator Pro has layers. It has all of those sorts of more professional features. And a lot of people were really surprised that Photomator was not included in this. And I guess we should probably mention Apple bought Pixelmator sometime last year, and there was just a big open question as to what they were going to do with these apps. So people are like, well, where's Photomator? Because having Pixelmator Pro and Photomator together makes a lot of sense, just like Lightroom and Photoshop. If you're a photographer using Photomator to do most of your editing and maybe kicking into Pixelmator Pro when you need to do something a little bit more complicated. And so far we've heard nothing.
Photomator is to Pixelmator Pro as GarageBand is to Logic Pro. And I think they're going to keep those two on their own. I can't see them making GarageBand a paid app because it's such an emblematic app for Apple. Buy a Mac and create, buy an iPad and create, record your music, that sort of thing. I kind of think Photomator is going to have that status going forward. At least I hope it does.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I saw some speculation that maybe Photomator just wasn't ready yet, and so they didn't make an announcement. I don't expect it to appear in this bundle, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did another bundle, sort of like what Adobe does with maybe just Pixelmator Pro and Photomator that would appeal to just photographers.
Can't see that.
Okay.
One thing that surprises me is there's no iCloud storage included in this bundle. You would expect it to include like a terabyte of iCloud storage because if you're doing all this video stuff, you're going to need storage. And Adobe does that. All their plans include some amount of storage, don't they?
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yep. Okay. Well, I wanted to talk about the new Ricoh GR IV Monochrome camera that is just about to be released. I think it's coming out in March, and Chris and Jordan at Petapixel have a video review on YouTube. And you all, if you're regular listeners, you know my love for monochrome and monochrome cameras. And I'm really impressed by this camera in a way I didn't think that I would be. And if I could afford it, I would buy one. But it's expensive. It's £1,600 here in the UK, which is the same price as the Fujifilm X100 6. And it's like $2,200 in the US, which I think includes some tariffs.
Probably.
Whereas the previous model, the GR4 color is only $1,500. So it's like 50% more in the US. So I think tariffs are included there. Whereas here, it's 300 pounds more for the monochrome compared to the latest GR4.
Oh, interesting.
Now, what's interesting about this camera, it's a compact camera. It's a compact camera. It's like the kind of compact camera you bought for $100 15 years ago to take on vacation. It's like one of those little cameras. It's a 26 megapixel sensor. It's got a 28 millimeter equivalent lens. It's an APS-C sensor. And the more I look at it, the more I think this is really cute. It's tiny. It really fits in your pocket, more than the Fuji X series would. And I'm wondering if in Chris and Jordan's review of the GR4, the color one, they came out a couple months ago, he was saying it doesn't matter how much it's going to cost. The pre-orders are going to go through the roof. You're going to buy it. And it's got the same sort of cachet as the Fujifilm X100 series. And this is the kind of camera that people really want to use. Now, the one problem for me is it doesn't have a viewfinder, and I'm pretty viewfinder centric. You can buy an optical viewfinder that you put in the hot shoe, which just basically gives you frame lines. You're not seeing what the camera is seeing. It's a pure optical viewfinder, just to frame. Yeah. It's centered above the lens, and you're using that the same way we'd use the optical part of the hybrid viewfinder on a Fujifilm camera. But I like the idea of finally another monochrome camera, and I think there's a Pentax monochrome as well, and then there's an expensive red camera, but that's more for cinema. But I like that this is becoming mainstream. I like the simplicity of the camera. Very few buttons. The menu system looks simple. I mean, I almost want to own one.
I love the fact that this kind of a niche product is expanding. If you were going to be a person that said, I just want a monochrome camera and I don't want just simulating it in my camera is not the same. I want pure monochrome. That's my deal. For a long time, I think the only thing you could really get was a very expensive Leica. And so that kind of, that's not going to apply. I'm not going to spend all that money. And now we're seeing more different options. I'm seriously wondering if Fuji is going to come out with something similar, because there seems to be an actual market for this, and more than just a small number of people who are nuts about monochrome.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, we've said this before, like it's nice that camera companies are finally starting to branch out and do different things. And, I think they know that there are a significant number of people, or at least enough people, who are willing to put down $2,500 or whatever it's going to end up being, $22,000, $25,000.
I know. Once you get above $2,000 for a camera that small, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. But I think for the people who are going to buy it, I think that market is probably not very expensive to them, right?
Yeah.
Not specifically dentists and things, but people who are enthusiasts. I know. Poor dentists always get lumped in here.
Still listening. Chris, if you're out there, say hi.
But I think that there are plenty of people who they've already spent a good amount of money on lenses and a good body and all of that, and this really appeals to them for the all the reasons, shooting just in monochrome, being artistic, et cetera, that for them, okay, putting $2,000 down for a camera that I'm going to really love, that kind of fits in with them.
It's got a couple of interesting features. One of them is I think it's 56 or 58 megabytes of onboard storage, and we should be seeing this in all cameras now, shouldn't we? They should all have this.
Oh, we should, yeah.
It uses micro SD, which a lot of people seem to think is inferior, but most of the SD cards I use in my camera are micro SD in a regular SD card adapter, because for some reason they're the ones that were cheaper when they're on sale. The other thing it has is, so the GR4 has a built-in ND filter. It's a two-stop ND filter. You can toggle it on and off. This has a built-in red filter. And when you shoot monochrome, the red filter gives you really good contrast with the sky. It makes reds lighter and blues darker. And most people, when they shoot monochrome with film, they'll have an orange or a red filter on their camera because they want that higher contrast. Mm-hmm. And it's got all sorts of options. It's not quite like film simulations with Fujifilm, but you've got a bunch of different profiles, like a half a dozen. One of them's really high contrast, which is ugly. One of them's grainy, which looks very filmic. We'll put a link in the show notes to the review that Chris Nichols and Jordan Drake did.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't catch this when I was watching this, but is the red filter like an actual red filter that
I
moves
think it
in
is,
place?
yeah, that moves in front of the sensor. I think it is, and I think that's what the ND filter was as well.
Nice.
So yeah, if you're into monochrome and you got the extra cash, I would say go for it, because while the lens in this is light years away from the lens in a Leica Q, right?
Yeah.
It's such a tiny camera. It's so small and discreet and pocketable that it's certainly something that you can use a lot more easily than you could use the larger Leica.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge part of it too.
So I saw something interesting in the news the other day. Sally Mann is a well-known photographer who has shot in what do you call the big things that people, the big plates, sort of 8x10 view camera, and she's done that for her whole career.
Yeah.
And she was on the BBC's Desert Island Discs radio program, and she said that she switched to digital. I'm just loving it. It's so easy. Color is so easy and so much fun. It makes such a difference. It's so time consuming and laborious to work with an 8x10 view, and the film is now so expensive. I hate spending that much money on each shot. You're always second guessing yourself. You're saying, is that good enough? Is that really worth $12? And she says, with digital, you just shoot, and if you don't like it, boom, gone off your computer. And I find that interesting. I mean, she's 70-ish years old. I mean, she's an accomplished photographer. And what I'm trying to figure out is why now? Why not before? We've had digital cameras for so long. Did someone give her a camera? Did someone convince her, another photographer, come on, you got to try this? It's really interesting to see someone switch like that. We've talked about people who sell all their gear to buy a different brand's gear, but this is like getting rid of that 15-pound view camera you're lugging around and having something that weighs, a pound on a strap around your neck and rediscovering photography. I think it's just wonderful.
Well, and I mean, that also might be a part of aging. Moving all that stuff around when you're in your 70s becomes a lot more difficult, even if maybe she has assistants and things like that. And it could be, maybe she just got tired of doing one thing and decided to try another and realized, oh, this newfangled digital technology sounds really interesting.
What this brings to mind, though, is how we've mentioned a number of times on this podcast that it's good to do something with a constraint or to change the way you're doing something because you look at things differently. And we're going to link to an article in Digital Camera World, which seems to be the original source here. She's 74 years old. So, yes, it could be age, but it could also be discovering a new way to do photography is like starting over, and it's finding new joy in photography, perhaps. And think about it. Like, have you been shooting color all your life? Buy a monochrome camera or set your camera to black and white. Have you, we've talked about using prime lenses versus zoom lenses and fixed lens cameras and all that. Find something that's different so that when you're going out to take pictures, it's new. It's not the same old stuff that you've been doing before. Don't take up an 8x10 view camera, though. That's a lot of work.
Well, I also wonder, and I'm not seeing it in either of these articles. Of course, because of our technical brains, my first thought was, okay, well, what is she using to replace that? Is she using a big 100 megapixel Hasselblad to get the same kind of imagery, the same kind of resolution, like that kind of quality that would come close to what she's working with? So that's kind of an interesting point that I don't think they really got into. And probably the point wasn't just that, oh, she's switching to digital and now let's get all nerdy about which kind of formats and things. It was more just the general idea. But I'd be curious to know, if you've been working at that quality for so long, you're not going to pick up a 16 megapixel point and shoot digital and it'll change your world. Although it could.
So that's interesting. On a Leica subreddit last week, I posted something saying, we're at 60 megapixels in the Q3. What do people think the Q4 is going to have? And the majority of people responded, I just use 24 megapixels. I don't need more than that. And if you research online, you'll find some people who say that a 35 millimeter negative is roughly 19 or 20 megapixels, and others who say that there's a lot more detail than that. I would think that 19 or 20 is a bit low. But it's true that, like, we will put a link in the show notes to an episode we did about megapixels sometime last year, I think. For me, the advantage of megapixels is croppability, and the fact that when you're doing something, when you're processing a photo, when you make a change, you're affecting all the pixels in the photo. And the more pixels you have, the less chance you have for artifacts. To me, however, with 60 megapixels, I don't need more. I don't want more because it's more work, it's more time, it takes up more space. For me, 60 is good. The previous camera I had was 47. And I mean, not much difference between 47 and 60, honestly. But with a fixed lens, 28 millimeter on my Q3, I want to be able to crop a lot more with the 60. And sometimes I'll crop a lot and I'll end up with something that's only 20 megapixels after cropping.
Yeah, which is perfectly acceptable. I mean, that's still a good resolution.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, completely.
Okay, do we have snapshots?
We do have snapshots.
You told me a moment ago that you do. I can think of something. Well, actually, I do have a snapshot. It's right here in my hand. But I'll let you go first.
During the holidays, I got a book that I really like. It's by Roger Deakins. It's called Reflections on Cinematography. Now, Roger Deakins is a movie cinematographer, but he also did a lot of just photography when he was starting out. And it's a really good look. I mean, it's basically a memoir, but he's done a lot of the Coen Brothers movies, the Shawshank Redemption. That would be like a good demonstration. So, I mean, he is really one of the most highly regarded cinematographers in the last, 50 years at least. And it's a great book, not just for how he approaches, lighting a scene. And there are some things where he's talking about specific films like The Big Lebowski. And for this scene, we had to set up all these kind of lights here. And some of that's beyond my technical ken because it's equipment that I don't know because I'm not a cinematographer. But it's interesting to see how he is approaching light and how he's approaching a scene and how he is looking at, all right, when he was shooting the movie Kundun by Martin Scorsese. Yeah. And how, just massive light challenges because I think they were filming in Morocco on some stage that they had built right there and like no infrastructure and just trying to figure out how can we make do with what we have and also make it dramatic and also make it so that something that, looks like a Martin Scorsese film. I really love this kind of behind the scenes stuff. And this is as much on his thinking and approach and starting out really as a journalistic kind of photographer and moving into it. So Reflections on Cinematography, link in the show notes. It's really good. And you, what do you have?
I have a new mouse. I don't think I mentioned this previously, did I?
Yes, you did.
Oh, okay. Well, that snapshot is gone then.
Sorry.
Well, I'm going to pass on this one because I thought I had something, but it turns out that I've already used it as a snapshot. So we'll end it here. Until next time, Jeff.
Until next time. This is great.
Thanks for listening to PhotoActive. You can find show notes, including any photos we discuss in this episode, at photoactive.co. That's photoactive.co. We couldn't afford the M. You can join our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/PhotoActiveCast. That's PhotoActiveCast in one word. You can subscribe to PhotoActive in your favorite podcast app or on Apple Podcasts. See the links on our website. And think about leaving us a rating or review in iTunes or in your podcast.